how did you find, and then how did you identify your top team members?
One, created a good brand to basically attract good people from our competition. But it started with having Scott Hannes recruit our first really top one.
Yeah.
And then also just because of the brand and the name we had in the community when we were a little bit smaller,
Yeah.
we got another awesome guy who's just phenomenal when it comes to like tile work. So now he's a salesperson, and we're actually working on him to move to a commercial sales manager role. We're another SBU for a company to do commercial sales. And as you do that, I think it starts snowballing effect like, hey, this company's the real deal to work for. And then your team members start talking. In our industry, a lot of installers, because they're 1099, they work for multiple different stores. So they go to that warehouse and, they're gossiping in that warehouse, coming to ours gossiping, going to the other one gossiping. And all of a sudden now they're actually team members, W-2 team members of ours. Well, they're telling their friends about, hey, like here, we got this over here. We take pride in our stuff. Like they're not driving rust buckets of vans. They're driving nice vehicles that are wrapped. We give them apparel. We don't charge them like some companies charge. And I'm not saying I never will, but for most of the stuff, I think I'm going to always have us make sure that we offer that, because I don't want them to inquire that cost for putting our brand on that, on their clothing and feel like, oh, I don't want to buy a shirt. Why do I have to buy another shirt? You know what I mean? And I think that's just something like a perk to work for us, that they don't have to worry about that stuff.
So your image that's projected into your marketplace not only brings customers in, it also brings talent for new team members. I love that, man.
And
That's awesome.
we put ourselves out there. Like our youngest installer, who's about to go on his own, was just on a national podcast. I've been on a few podcasts for this. And the whole thing is just bringing value to people. Like we're not reinventing the wheel. Honestly, I don't worry about what my competition's doing. We got to execute what we're doing.
Same.
If we execute what we're doing at our service levels, it's going to be very hard to compete with us. And sometimes I know some competitors are doing a higher dollar amounts than we are, but they're also like strangled by that. They can't get away. So there's so many different variables, and a lot of people like to judge on total sales, stuff like that. But dude, you and I know people that are doing 8+ figure businesses and literally can't get off the phone for 5 minutes. I guess it's what you want your life to look like.
So what does your life look like in 5 years?
That's tough, man. When you text me that, I'm like, holy shit, that's
or, some people said a year or 3 years. So if that's easier, because 5 years is as much as the people that are in the masterminds that I'm in, as much as we grow in a year's time, it is very difficult to say 5-year goal, because
it's super tough.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start on the personal side of it. As Christine and our kids get older, they're getting more involved in sports, right? And that's one thing. My parents growing up, we played travel soccer growing up, and they worked very demanding jobs. My parents knew how to work hard, but not make money work for them. And they were really strapped to their schedule, but they always made it to our game. And that's one thing I promised myself. I want to be able to go to their practices and their game. So basically continuing to grow our company to build that lifestyle and give that lifestyle to our team members is something that's huge for us. Like something happens with our team member, like we do as much as we possibly can for them. Can't say we can change the world, but at least we try to attempt to do something. So on the personal side, it's more getting back that time of being able to spend time with them. Like this morning, we have such a busy next 2 weeks. So Christina and I went on a coffee date because we have a dinner tonight. So we're like, hey, let's go grab coffee. And then we had to go pick up like Girl Scout cookies. We really sold like 400 boxes. It's something stupid. So that's how our morning looked, and I didn't disrupt anybody else's life within the company. It's a very tough question to answer that I'm trying to answer myself. But for the personal side, we are looking, and it's a very slow look. We're not doing it this year. We do want to buy a vacation home somewhere by the ocean, but I'm very all my family lives in our town. So, and I'm very involved. I'm on the board of directors for our chamber. I was running a couple of networking groups, and I've learned to say no and back out of some of those just because the time constraint. But we want to travel with the kids when they're out of school. And just give the opportunities for them to have fun with their friends and not be limited because of our decisions as parents.
Yeah. I like that. One question that comes up a lot in these masterminds that I ask myself every time I do go to one, because the question's asked, is what do you want?
Yeah.
And why? And I think that's a question we all should ask ourselves often, is what do I want and why? Because as you grow and develop, that changes.
Big time.
And if you're not asking that question to yourself, then what you chose 6 months ago or 2 years ago might have you in a path that you're not necessarily wanting to arrive at the destination. So, all right. So tell me about a book. What book has impacted your life the most?
I'd say the most was actually I'm not the best reader, so it's very simplified, but he made it this way, is Mark Evans, DM's book, Magician versus Mule.
Same, man.
Here's one thing I've really committed to myself the last 2 years. Basically, 2 years, because when COVID started, you're at home more. I listened to Audibles all the time prior to that. I never had a paper book, and I'm not knocking Audible. It was just something, a mindset shift to kind of stay away from technology the first part of my day. So I went to paper, and my mornings now are reading a chapter of a book a morning. And some people are like, oh, that's not enough. Well, to you, it might not be. To me, it's enough.
Yeah.
Well, and like, quit comparing yourself to other people, and the journeys are totally different. But anyways, that book simplified how to really like figure out your lifestyle, quit just, exchanging time for money, and bringing value to not just your family, but to your people that surround you. It's a super simple read, but really to the point. It's just direct. And I think that's what I appreciate about him.
Yeah. I definitely recommend that one as well. It puts a different viewpoint that
Rich Dad Poor Dad's a
everybody can
great
take.
one.
Yeah.
Traction for small business owners, Traction. E-Myth. E-Myth is a phenomenal book. I can go on for days on some of these books. And I don't read 60 books a year. I probably read 12. But
yeah, I'm an Audible junkie. If I sit down and do the paper, I end up falling asleep because I'm sitting still too long. But
sure.
Audible just fits into my lifestyle. All right. So do you have any YouTube channels, podcasts, anything that you follow that you would recommend?
Again, it goes back to Mark Evans. The Deal Maker podcast is probably the most blunt, to the point, no smoke and mirrors. The value in it is insane. And it goes back to Masterminds, dude. It goes back to Masterminds. Like, you're in 4. I couldn't handle 4. I'd confuse myself. I get the shiny object syndrome. I was a part of 3, and now I'm a part of 2. And I got identified. These both make sense for my life now.
So I will say this on my masterminds, like, all of them have a different level of commitment. Like Deal Maker Family, that is a weekly call.
Yep.
And then there's a lot of activity on the private Facebook group. So it's a little more commitment, but it's very relative to what I've got going on in life currently.
Exactly.
And it helps me get past these hurdles. Like my notes, I hardly ever take notes, but I literally walk away with a page of notes after each weekly call that I am trying to immediately implement. But, some of them is just a private Facebook group that's a little small due per month, and I can hop in and out, and I catch little tidbits also that helps me become aware of new investment endeavors. Because after you start when you get past that slump of cash flow, where you're just getting enough for yourself and then you start getting some surplus, you want to get it into something that's going to create new money, baby. Yep. And that's why I try to stay plugged in.
And actually, you and I were talking about this with our companies. Like, I was at the point at 2 million where this was like overwhelming. I couldn't break that next barrier. And finally, I just learned to say no to a lot of things and stay committed. There's money to be made in any industry. I don't care what industry you're in. If you're all in and make a successful company, like, dude, we're creating not just, it's opening us to be able to lend passively on bigger deals, to buy our single family portfolio, to help in that. Like, we have partners in that's really passive for us. That's another one. That's a company that we have a lot of processes and procedures in place. And also, like, so I have an e-com store, which throws off some money. It's cool. But dude, I'm really involved in the non-direct whole life policies, basically creating our own bank. And that's another book. What would the Rockefellers do? Life changing.
I've heard that a few times.
It's awesome. I told my financial advisor, because I opened my first non-direct whole life 5 years ago. I'm like, you should have made me read this book. I'd have 10 of them by now. Basically, create your own bank, and you can be able to fund your own company. There's so many cool ways.
Is that a self-directed IRA? Is that what you're saying?
No, that is not. It's not. I'm no advisor, so I probably shouldn't be giving advice. But
yeah,
not a self-directed IRA. It's not.
And what did you call it again?
It's a non-direct whole life.
Non-direct whole life. Okay, so it's a life insurance policy. Yeah.
Read the book. That'll help.
Yeah, man, I'm going to check that out. That's why you have these conversations. You hear something, you're like, whoa, what is that? I've never heard that before. If you're into it, I might want to be into it. So, all right, man, I've taken enough of your time. You have dropped some major nuggets. I know the audience has got some takeaways. This is definitely one that you should listen to multiple times, because if you are trying to grow a business, get into business, there's so much that you just dropped that was
Appreciate it.
necessary for it to be successful.